Okay, so last time I did the routine that I like to do for makeup on other guys. But this time I am going to show you guys what I like to do in my personal makeup routine to give you guys and by guys I mean literally the men, even the women. I mean, for girls who are like newer to makeup or really don't want that glam look that's super popular amongst the YouTubes and just like the cosmetic world these days, to give you maybe some different ideas on what you can do to make your makeup look a little bit better and a little more natural. Okay, so the first thing that we're gonna do after we've already moisturized and primed is apply a concealer all underneath our under eye in the highlight area and blend it out with, let's say it together, a damp beauty blender. That's right. Okay, so the first thing I do after I've already moisturized and primed my skin is apply concealer in the highlight area underneath the eye to make myself not look as tired as I always am. You can apply this straight from the beauty blender to your skin, or apply it to your skin and then blend it out with the beauty blender. And I am using my Anastasia Concealer in 2.5 that I always talk about because I love it so much, and one of the Morphe blending sponges. Today is actually my mom's birthday, and I believe she is going to be coming here. And the reason I like to use a damp beauty blender is because my skin is pretty dry already, so whenever I put concealer, especially around the delicate skin around my eyes, you can really tell. So using a damp beauty blender helps it to just soften up and not lay so harsh on that dry skin. And then after I've blended out with my sponge, I always like to go back in with my finger and just make sure that everything looks as smooth and blended as I want it to. And I always like to tell people that your fingers are your best makeup tool. And why is because that they're already warm, they have natural oils. I just feel like your finger picks up excess makeup if there's too much on your skin, and obviously that doesn't apply for everything, but for most things, for concealer at least, for me, my finger is one of my best makeup tools for concealer, in addition to a damp sponge. Okay, so after I feel satisfied with how my concealer looks, I'll go in with my foundation powder. That is my favorite. I'm sure there are higher quality ones out there. I don't give a fuck. Like, this is the one that I like. And just for me, this is the one that I personally like to use. As my life upgrades and I find better makeup, then maybe I'll use a different foundation at that point, but for right now, this is the one that I love, and this is the one that works for me. And so I use the Pure Minerals 4-in-1 pressed mineral makeup in the light tan. And with my foundation powder, I like to use the Morphe M439, and I just swirl it around, tap it off, and buff. The reason I love the Pure Minerals so much, and I feel like I've talked about it in one of my other men's makeup videos, but it's because it has such a smooth, full coverage while laying so flat to the skin. I like swear to God every time I wear this foundation, whether I use it lightly or I go like shoot for more of a full coverage, people can never tell that there's anything on my skin, and that's like majorum key. That's like major key. Majorum key for sure. And people are always talking about flashback in pictures. I never get any flashback from this. Like, you guys look at any of the pictures on my Instagram, or if you're someone who is like actually friends with me, so you've seen like a lot of my photos, yeah, I don't get any of that weird flashback. So, and I'll usually do just like a light sweep around my eye to help set my concealer, because I'm not someone who likes to use the loose translucent setting powder with like, you know, a big brush and then tapping it under there. I don't do that. That requires more time than I care to give, and it's just not realistic for me. So I don't do that. So after my foundation powder, I'll then go back in with a bronzer, because the look that I generally like to go for is like the bronze beach look, like the fresh out the sun look, like I just got home from the tanner, because they know beaches in Michigan in December. So then next I'll go in with bronzer and add a little face color back into my face. And I alternate between a few bronzers. One is an old Urban Decay one that I love so much that they don't make anymore. It's the baked, it's like their baked bronzer, but it was like the right amount. Actually, for this one, I am going to use that one. It is the Urban Decay Baked Bronzer for Face and Body in Gilded. It's so old it no longer has a cover, but I love this bronzer still so much. Oh, it's gorgeous. Okay, but I never use that one just alone. I always will layer that one with another one, because I will use the Urban Decay one as a little more of a highlight. The two main bronzers that I like to use on the regular is the Bare Minerals Faux Tan and the MAC Give Me Sun. So those are like my go-tos. I do find that the MAC one is a little more warm, aka orange. It's a little orange. You can look a little orange. So if I'm going for like a spray tan look, then I would always for sure go with that MAC one. Otherwise, I stick with the Bare Minerals Faux Tan, because I feel like it's made with a little bit more of like a green base, as opposed to like most bronzers that are made with like a red base, and that's what gives it that kind of orange look. Similar to like ethnic foundation, like darker colored foundations. Like what separates like a really good one from like a not great one for me is if it has too many red tones in it, which a lot of them do. So I'm always like, ah, if I have found one that does not have the red tones and has the right amount of green tones, yellow tones, goldeny tones. So to apply my bronzer, I use a brush that I found on clearance at one of my local stores. It's just called M Studio, but I tell you what, this is like one of the best brushes I have ever bought in my life. And so the fact that I got it for $1.99, I feel great about that. But it is just like a dense, angled contour. It's called a control. They call it a control powder brush. I call this an angled contour brush. An angled, if it was fluffier, I would call it an angled blush brush. So I just roll around in there like that. And you shouldn't really be able to see a ton of your product on the brush. And then I go in, almost like the old Bare Minerals rule thing where they did like a 3 and an E. I kind of do that similar type of thing where on the high planes of my face where I would actually get tan. So like when I get actually tan, I get a little more tan on the sides of my forehead, on the side center. So not completely the side, those are the temples, but like right here. And I always will work anything into my hairline because it just makes it look that much more natural. And then I hit the sides of my nose just to add a little bronze there. It's almost like a light contour. And you want the small part to hit almost like in the hollow of your cheekbone and brush it out that way. When I first was learning how to do makeup, I had I knew this gal who worked for Smashbox, and she told me, make every brush stroke intentional. So with each swipe of your brush, you're doing something very intentional with it to achieve a certain look. And that, honestly, sometimes when I'm trying to like take my time to do my makeup, it makes a big difference when I remind myself of that when I'm applying something. Anyway, just a little tidbit. Be intentional with your strokes, okay? With your application. So I did the Bare Minerals Faux Tan first, and now I'm just taking a couple swipes of that Gilded from Urban Decay and just going back over the other bronzer I just put on. And then I will go back in and add blush. So it sounds kind of silly when I explain it to other people the way that I do my makeup, because I cover everything up to add the colors that are naturally back in there, but in the places that I want. And I think that's how men's makeup ends up looking the most natural, even if you're doing something a little more extra like this. So I keep my blushes in this magnetic palette from Tarte. I'm not gonna show you the inside because it's disgusting, but I have 3 different blushes that I will show you. I don't know what brand they are, they're just some off-brand, but they look like this. Oh God. So they look like this, and I just blend the 3 colors together, and whatever color that ends up being is one that works amazing for me, and that's the color that I end up using. And to apply my blush, I use the Morphe M310. So I'm naturally a little more like reddish pink in my cheeks already, like down here a little bit. So I like to add the blushed color. Actually, like I said, I like to look like I've just been in the sun. So if you spent a little too much time in the sun, you'll start to get reddish, pinkish all across the top here and across the top, or I do at least, the top of my cheekbone. And I'll add a little on my forehead just for some natural color dimension. And in my mind, that gives your skin that like natural dimensional depth, just with the colors, while still looking awesome and pretty and soft and natural. So lately, after I've done my blush, I'll go in with one of the highlighters from the Carly Bible BH palette, or the BH Carly Bible palette, whichever. I like to use the bigger one, that's the gold one right here. And I literally will just, with the Morphe 510, I just literally will hit it. Boop. And do that just across the top of my nose, ever so lightly, because I don't want to necessarily look highlighted, but I want to have that like glowy reflection. There's this one girl that I work with, and her highlighter is always the most, literally, always so on point that it literally almost makes her look like plasticky, but I kind of love it. So I like need to steal her bronzer somehow. I mean her highlighter. And then after am completely done with all of my face things, I will using the Granite Dip Brow from Anastasia and the MAC 266 angled brush. Lightly dab it into the dip brow only because it's so intense with so much color that it's easy to like overdo it. So I'll dip it in there and then I wipe it off on the edge. And when I do my brows, I like to make my strokes or make my marks in the same way that the hair is growing. And I fill more in at the top than I do at the bottom because my eyebrows are naturally like super arched already. So I just want to make them look a little fuller, even though they're already pretty full. I'm surprised actually that like Brooke Shields has not been like picked up by like a makeup brand to promote, even though her brows are aren't what they used to be, like that's for sure. I know, because I just saw her on an episode of Law & Order SVU. But, like, wouldn't you just think that somebody would have picked up Brooke Shields for, like, endorsement by now for, like, a cosmetics line, seeing that, like, bold brows have been back for, like, a while? Weird, maybe she didn't want to. And then after I feel satisfied with how full my brows are, I'll go in with like one of these spoolies on a stick and just comb out and up. I brush out and up to softly blend it, but to not move that brow pomade around too much because it is super dark, and once you start getting messed up, it's hard to like fix it, especially with this brow stuff. I have found it's hard for me to fix it. And last, but definitely not least, the last step is 2 mini sprays of the Urban Decay All-Nighter Makeup Setting Spray. And it's like the holy grail of natural looking makeup for me. Like, it's like, again, I don't know what other way to say it other than like major key. The Urban Decay All-Nighter Setting Spray is like a major key. I feel like you can see it instantly, the way that it just like dews everything up, like DEW, dews it up and just softens it up, and it just feels refreshing too after you've just put like way too much makeup on. Okay, well, that is my personal makeup routine. I hope that there's something from this video that you either liked or helped you, or you didn't know, or you learned, or just all around enjoyed watching it. If you guys have any specific questions, definitely leave them in the comments below. Please don't forget to subscribe, pretty please. Oh, I want to do like a Q&A. Yeah, so, and just like not even a makeup Q&A, like an anything Q&A. I think that that would be so much fun. So put questions below and I'll try and gather up a bunch of other questions, and then I'll do that. And you guys will get to know a little bit more about me. Okay, that is all that I have for you guys. I love you guys so much, and I will see you guys next time.